Hi, beautiful people. How are ya? I hope you're having a great day. Well, I guess the cold weather's here to stay. I've got a fire in the fireplace. That's helping keep us a little bit more warm in here. And here's a few pictures of the Brussels sprouts that's growing out in our greenhouse. I love Brussels sprouts.
A few moments later.
We got a little bit of snow. What's the weather like where you are? Warm weather sounds wonderful right now. I thought I would start this video out telling you what most researchers say that fibromyalgia is and potentially what causes it. The reason I want to do this is because people search on the internet this very topic because they want to try to understand what fibromyalgia is. It isn't an easy disorder to explain, but this is what has been studied and discovered. Fibromyalgia is a complex disease that is primarily characterized by widespread pain, sleep disturbances, and fatigue. And I would say that stiffness would be included on that list. It affects our joints and our muscles all over the body. Do you have stiffness with your fibromyalgia? Boy, I do. It's actually how my fibromyalgia began. Fibromyalgia has an estimated prevalence of 2 to 4% worldwide, with a strong female prevalence. But we have a wide range of symptoms, including regional pain syndrome, which is pain in specific areas that may have developed after an injury and before fibro, gastrointestinal issues like IBS, GERD, acid reflux, bloating, indigestion, hemorrhoids, and so many others. Genitourinary disorders. This is the urinary and reproductive systems that are affected, and people with fibro may have interstitial cystitis, UTIs, endometriosis, hernias, vulvodynia, dyspareunia, incontinence, and so many others. Cognitive impairment, psychological suffering, usually depression and anxiety, autonomic disturbances, which I've done quite a few videos on this topic, gait instability, sensitivity to external stimuli like sounds and bright lights. This list of symptoms, which not everyone has every disorder that I listed, except for those first few. But what you do have can often lead to decreased functioning in daily life, work productivity, and health-related quality of life. It isn't fully known yet what the pathogenesis of fibro is or how it develops. There are many theories of the development of fibro, such as having an autoimmune disease like RA or lupus, for example, prior to getting fibromyalgia. Or maybe it's the abnormal processing of electrical signals in the brain, which are supported by other pain conditions like migraines, IBS, and TMD. It could be genetic factors that are important for the function of certain chemical messengers that are involved in pain signaling, or it could be psychological stress or depression, and or having experienced traumatic events from childhood or your teen years, or having been exposed to psychological stress at home or at work for many years. The death of a loved one can be traumatic. But researchers also have stated that Lyme disease could also be the cause of fibro, or the thyroid gland, or sex hormones, or muscle or nerve problems. Any of these could have led to fibro, but the links to these are vague, and research is totally unclear on this pathogenesis. So where does that leave us? It's generally considered that fibromyalgia is a combination of physical, psychological, and biological factors working together. It isn't just one thing. That's why it's so difficult to pinpoint one particular biological or psychological cause. Do any of you now or have at one time felt prejudiced against? Do you still feel like people misunderstand you? This is why. You may believe that the last thing that occurred to you was probably the cause of fibromyalgia. The truth is, it was probably a conglomeration of things that occurred over time that led to your diagnosis. That's what I believe. If childhood trauma is the cause of fibro, and yet you didn't get fibro until you were 40 years old, is it truly the only cause? Because during our lifetime, we've had many difficult experiences, like a rough marriage, a car accident, a difficult work life, or any number of things. This means that each of us has probably had a number of causes that make us unique. I have IBS, but you may have interstitial cystitis and I don't. Or maybe some of you have both. We're all different, and that makes finding the right treatment difficult. What works for me and my biological makeup may be different from yours, and vice versa. And when people try to put us in a box, wrong treatment decisions can be made, and a prejudice towards people with fibromyalgia can make our symptoms worse, because we may have a caring physician who's trying to figure out the right treatment, but it's going to take several attempts, many attempts over time. And then after time, that treatment no longer works, and you got to switch things up. Some researchers do not believe there is tissue damage in fibromyalgia, but other researchers say there's a subcategory of people with small fiber neuropathy, which does show tissue damage. Does this count? I think the jury's still out, so we'll just have to wait and see. It's no secret that fibromyalgia causes a significant financial burden on families. However, this is true of any rheumatic disease or cardiovascular disease, diabetes, or cancer. Fibromyalgia is a chronic disorder, and because of this natural progress of the disease, there's a high rate of healthcare use. It's been estimated that the standardized average annual cost of fibromyalgia per patient in the USA is anywhere from $1,750 to $35,920. What I find difficult about these studies is that they're saying we are a burden, and I don't believe that. Yes, there's a cost to having fibro, just like there is with any illness, but the result over time leads to a better understanding for the individual who has fibromyalgia as to what works or doesn't work. And yet we keep an open mind because over time, what we thought didn't work might actually work after all. We can benefit from a multi-component healthcare approach. We need to work on our physical, psychological, and sociological perspectives. And to do that, we must accept who we are and where we are right now. My hope and prayer is that your family doesn't see you as a burden. If they do, is it because you feel like a burden? I felt that way before. I felt like I was useless and insignificant, which in turn caused me to work harder at work because there I felt less insignificant. This wasn't my husband's fault or my children's fault. It was mine and something I had to work through. I got there eventually, and that's what matters. We need to work on our fear of movement, reduce our stress, set goals to improve our physical and psychological function. This is the beginning of a new era for us when we do this. It means we can accept who we are. I know that I had to fix my plantar fasciitis before I could move in any significant way, at least standing on my feet. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's completely fixed. It isn't. But it's so much better than it was. I feel more like a superhuman person these days. And all I did was find a pair of shoes that had the right support for me. Yikes, I have owned so many pairs of shoes. Most just caused me more pain. I mean, it's true. You pay for what you get. So I finally bit the bullet and bought some tennis shoes that really helped my feet. My feet are still sore. I'm not there yet. But prior to where it was, I'd say an 8 out of 10. It's now a 4 out of 10. That's much better. My next pair of shoes may be the same brand or something else. Either way, I know that I have to stop being so cheap when it comes to my feet. Please know that I'm praying for you, that we're in this war together. And I hope you'll find a moment to pray for me too, and for the rest of the beautiful people on this site. I had to come to a place where I knew I needed to start moving my body a little more each day. I hope you're not tired of me bringing this up. I was able to get up and go to work each day, but that was the most of my ability because once I got home, that was about all I could handle. I've had fibromyalgia since 2008, many of you for so many more years. I wasn't diagnosed until 2009, and it was probably 2015 or so before I realized that moving my body would only hurt me in the short term, and I needed to move it daily. So that's what I've done. Sure, I have had days, weeks of having a flare that was distressing, and I had to rest and do less than normal. But I learned to keep going, keep moving. Please beautiful people, if there's anything that you get from this message today, it's that we have to keep moving. I have a new normal, and each day is different, and I can live with that. I hope this made sense to you. I send you gentle hugs and support. Love you. That fibromyalgia, you know that I have it, that was probably a because once I get